Alright, here we go, guys. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about building your own AR-15 rifle. This is an extremely enjoyable hobby that anyone can get into. If you're into AR-15s, something that'll also save you a little bit of money by building it yourself, and you'll be able to customize exactly how you want. Took a lot of time deciding the different components to put in this rifle, and as we go down the line, I'll kind of explain my decision making and why I chose the things I chose. So here you go. Here's the specifications of my most recent AR-15 build. Hope you enjoy. So the first step, guys, to building your own AR-15 is that you have to get your hands on a lower receiver. An AR-15 lower receiver is the only part with a serial number that you have to fill out paperwork for when you go buy it, just like any other handgun or something to that effect. All the other components to an AR-15 are considered accessories. So once you get your hands on the lower, everything else is just stuff you can buy online. You can have it shipped to your house. You don't have to deal with FFL dealers or trying to find things locally or any of that kind of stuff. Everything else you can just order online, or if you're lucky enough to have a shop like we do out here that has lots of stuff, you can pick it up in person as well. But like I said, the only part that you actually have to go in and fill out paperwork on is this lower receiver. The lower receiver consists of this metal piece right here. It does not have any of the components with it when you buy it. If you buy it stripped like I did, it will not have trigger, hammer, any of that kind of stuff. It won't have any of the back end of the rifle. It won't have this grip, most of the lower, or it won't have a grip at all actually, and it won't have a trigger guard. So it'll just be this machined piece, and the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is you need to decide if you want your lower receiver to be commercial or if you want to build your rifle with mil-spec parts. I chose mil-spec. Generally speaking, there's more out there that you can do with mil-spec, more components, but you could definitely do commercial as well. Why would you go commercial? You can go commercial because you can get all kinds of funky things on your AR. I've seen commercial ones that, the mag well flares out so that you have, an easier time or a faster reload time. They just have different things done to them that are outside of the military specifications. So moving on, what I chose for my lower receiver is a Stag arms lower. Let me show it to you guys. There you go. Alright, if you look right here, you can see the Stag. See if I can get it to focus. So this is by Stag Arms. I also chose to go with a Stag Arms lower parts kit. Okay, when you buy your lower, the first thing you'll need to do is get your hands on a lower parts kit so that you can put it together. And the parts kit will consist of a grip, which the first thing you'll probably do is throw it away. It's a cheap little plastic grip, but it's at least something. It'll come with a trigger guard. It won't be this one. It'll be a different one. It'll come with trigger, hammer, all of the pins, detents, springs, everything you're going to need to assemble the lower half of the AR. Now, with that being said, this one has some upgrades to it. Let's talk a little bit about those. So the first thing I did with mine was I got rid of the grip. Obviously, this grip is by Ergo grips. The reason I chose it is just because I've got a shop out here in my hometown that's got a lot of different grips, and I just went in and kind of checked them all out, found one I liked. I got a different trigger guard. This is the Magpul enhanced trigger guard. It's got a little bit of a dip to it, which helps with gloved hands. It also covers up this annoying gap that's here, which there's a space right here, an empty void with the trigger guard that comes with most lower parts kits. Another thing I did is I put on these K&S anti-rotational pins, this bar. What it does is it connects the trigger pin and the hammer pin together to make them one piece. And what that does is it keeps them from walking out on you when you're shooting. Just a slight upgrade. It's definitely not necessary, but just makes for less maintenance on your rifle down the road. The other thing that I did was I put on this Magpul BAD lever. You can see it right here. So the Magpul BAD lever is something that you use for actuating the bolt catch. I'm going to put the hammer back. Side note, when you're building your AR, you can never let the weight of the hammer come forward unless you have the rifle fully assembled. It rests against the bolt catch when it's lower half on its own, and it will break it if you fire it right now. So that's why I went ahead and put the safety on. But this BAD lever goes it attaches to the bolt catch, which is right here. Normally a bolt catch has this little bar right here that goes up and has a little piece right here. And this effectively goes around that piece and comes down and through the trigger guard so that you can actuate it from the right side. It just makes it so that when you go to put in the next magazine and you want to release it, you just press it with this finger. You don't have to take your left hand off the rifle and hit the side of the bolt catch like you would normally see. So it just makes it so you can actuate it from the right side. Again, this is not a must, it's just something that I did. This is the safety selector that came with it. The hammer trigger also came with it. Okay, so when you have your lower parts kit and you have that assembled, the next thing you're going to need to do to finish your lower is get your hands on your receiver extension assembly. Side note, you can do all of the lower receiver without needing a vise. That's not what they'll tell you, but you can do it without needing a vise of any kind, without needing special wrenches or anything like that. All you really need is a set of standard punches you can get from the hardware store. So let's talk about the receiver extension. Okay. The tube that's on the back of the AR-15 right here is called the buffer tube. The buffer tube or receiver extension tube screws in to your lower receiver. Now, it's important to note that if you went with a mil-spec lower receiver, you need to get yourself a mil-spec buffer tube. Now, with that being said, about the punch set, when you get to this stage, you will need one special tool. It's called a castle nut wrench. You need it to tighten down this castle nut right here. But anyways, this is also by Stag Arms. Just kind of coincidence that the Stag Arms lower parts kit and this Stag Arms receiver extension assembly is what they sold at the shop, and I just happened to have had a Stag lower, so that was just by coincidence. But you can mix and match the brands. It's really irrelevant. You just want to notate whether or not you want mil-spec or commercial. The difference between mil-spec and commercial is actually the diameter of the tube. It's slightly different. The buttstock is separate. You buy any buttstock you want and put it on here. So you'll get the assembly, and the assembly will come with the buffer tube, the castle nut. It'll come with this sling plate or slap plate. It's this one that goes right here in between the two. It'll come with the buffer, which is right in here. Let's see if I can turn it so you can see it. And it comes with the spring that's coiling all the way down here behind the buffer. All of that will come with, and like I said, the only special thing you'll need is a castle nut wrench, and I would recommend some blue Loctite as well. Anytime you have threads anywhere on the AR, I put blue Loctite on it. So there you go, that's what I did. For the buttstock, this is a Magpul MOE buttstock. It's really inexpensive, lightweight. The only criticism I have of it is that when you have the MOE locked into your whatever position you want, it's got a little rattle. Okay, the next version of this buttstock is called the Magpul CTR. It has a special tension lock that runs right here in this front triangle area that you close down when you put it in the position you want, and it makes it to where it's effectively zero wiggle. I've ordered one of those. It'll be here soon, and I'll switch it out. And in case you're wondering about the colors of what these are when you're ordering or you're buying things, this kind of tan color is called Flat Dark Earth. So, side note, that's what I went with for most of my parts. So that should be everything for the lower receiver. Like I said, you don't need any special tools aside from that castle nut wrench and some punches. Everything else is, just stuff from around the house and things like that. If you have any questions or comments about any of the things with respect to this half the build or the rest of the video, please put them down below, and I'll be happy to answer questions. And if you have your own build and you want to chime in with what you have on yours, I'd love to hear what some of you guys have put on your own ARs. So let's move on to the upper receiver. Take a look at that. So the next thing you'll need in your AR-15 build, once you have the lower assembled, is you'll need to get your hands on an upper receiver. Now, a lot of people will just buy completed uppers or completed lowers and mix and match them. This video is really geared towards people that want to do the whole thing themselves. True hobbyists that want to have every part of it done themselves. So what I did is I went with a stripped flat top upper receiver. This upper receiver will come, if you get it completely stripped, without the forward assist and without the ejection port cover. So this will be effectively open like this, and this won't be here. You'll need to find those two things and add them on if you go with this style upper receiver. There are lots of different upper receivers up there, mil-spec, not mil-spec, that will work just fine with whatever you did with the lower. You just need to decide what you like. I chose the flat top upper, so for this particular build, what you'll need to do is get your hands on your forward assist assembly. It'll come with the forward assist, the spring, the roll pin, everything you'll need to accomplish that. You'll also need to get your hands on your ejection port cover. Oops, sorry about that. Your ejection port cover is going to be it's going to come with the cover itself, okay, which is this piece. Okay, it's also going to come with the rod and spring and C-clamp that you need. This sight is not on the upper receiver originally. Obviously, I put that on, so I just wanted to kind of preface that for you guys and see if I can't get this to stay. Okay, so what I did for mine is I went with the flat top upper receiver, the standard forward assist. You can get them with, you know, larger buttons or different colors or all that kind of stuff. This is a standard one. And I chose to get an ejection port cover from, I believe the company is NDZ Designs. Basically, they just laser engrave stuff. So what I got, let's see if I can zoom in here, was this one. Has a little group therapy logo, just something I thought was kind of funny. Texas flag on the right. So this is when the gun is being fired and the ejection port's open. When it's closed, it's that same group therapy logo with a American flag on the right. So, I mean, that's just aesthetics. You don't need any of that by any means. You just need an ejection port cover. Now, a lot of upper receivers, if you get an upper, will come with those two items already installed on it. They're easy enough to change out if you wanted to switch those things in and out. So once you have the stripped upper receiver assembled with the forward assist and ejection port cover, the next thing you'll need to get your hands on is your barrel. You'll need to decide what you want out of a barrel. Now, turn this over so we can take a look at what I got going here. So, you'll have to decide a lot of things when you choose your barrel. It's kind of one of the biggest decisions with buying a rifle, because at this point you'll be determining, do you want it in 5.56? Do you want it in 2.23? You'll be deciding, do you want a carbine length gas system, a mid-length gas system? You'll also be deciding, you know, what kind of twist rate you want. There's all kinds of things associated with the barrel. So just to give you guys a quick rundown of what I did, I chose a 16-inch mid-length barrel. What that means is that it's a 16-inch barrel with a mid-length gas system. You can see, well, we know the gas tube runs from the top of the upper receiver through the railing system and right into the front of this gas block front sight base. The mid-length gas system is determining the length of that gas tube. If you got a carbine length gas system, it pushes it back to, I believe, the 7-inch instead of 9-inch marker. So it's just a shorter gas system. They're both reliable for sure. There's some thought process about the reliability of a mid-length gas system working a little bit more because it has a split second longer for the cycling of the next round to happen. I chose it just because I wanted a certain length of handrail. Now, again, this is something else that you're going to make a decision on. I actually had, the gas system length had nothing to do with my decision. What I wanted was a front sight base. Okay, what that means is you have this front sight that's affixed to the barrel. That determines how long your rail system can be. So had I gone with a carbine length gas system, I would have had a shorter handrail, which I was not crazy about. I liked the 9-inch rails. So what I did is I went with the mid-length gas system. 16-inch barrel, 16 inches, the shortest legally you can put on your rifle without having to build yourself an AR pistol or a SBR, in which case you have to have, I believe, certain registration I'm not too familiar with. You can get a 14.5-inch barrel and weld on your muzzle device. If you do that and that together reaches 16 inches, that would also qualify. I didn't do that. I just went with a 16-inch barrel. Alright guys, one other thing I wanted to say about choosing your barrel that I forgot to mention earlier is that There's a lot of features with barrels, and you'll see barrels out there, a lot of different pricing, and some very extreme price differences, and that comes from some of the internal features and the way the materials were handled during the process making of the barrel. One of those things is whether or not you want your barrel chrome lined. It's supposed to increase reliability. Another thing too is that do you want it stainless? Do you want to make sure your barrel was cold hammer forged? So there's some things to think about. For the reference of the build, this one is both of those. It's cold hammer forged with chrome lined, 16-inch, 1 in 7 twists with M4 feed ramps from Bravo Company. Now, I mentioned the twist rate. That was the other thing I was going to say to you guys, is that choosing a twist rate is going to be important too, based on what you're going to be doing with the rifle. A faster twist rate, meaning a lower number, like a 1/7, 7 being determining the length down the barrel it takes to make 1/4 rotation for the round. The faster the twist rate, the heavier of a load that barrel is going to be able to stabilize. Meaning, if you wanted to be shooting 45 or 50, 55 grain 223s only, you don't necessarily need a 1/7 twist rate. You'll be able to function well and stabilize that round really well with a 1/9 twist rate. This one is a 1/7 twist rate, simply because I know I'm going to be shooting a lot of 5.56 from it, as well as some heavier grain 5.56, at least 77 grain. So that's why I chose a 1/7 twist rate. So after you have your barrel picked out, the next thing you're going to need to do is decide your rail system. And the reason you need to decide your rail system before getting a barrel nut and putting it on your barrel to the upper receiver is because certain rail systems have dedicated proprietary barrel nuts, and this is one of them. This rail system is by Midwest Industries. It is it's a one-piece free float rail. Free float means it doesn't actually touch the barrel anywhere the whole length. It threads on to this nut on the upper receiver, and it circles around the barrel the whole way. When choosing your rail system, there's a lot you can do. You can get drop-ins, you can get two-piece ones that clamp together, you can get one-piece ones that have tension screws on the bottom. What I wanted was one piece that would be threaded on, and that was it. I didn't like two-piece. I didn't like the idea of a metal that was intended to be flexible with a tension screw. I wanted one solid piece that's screwed on. So what you'll do, once you pick out whatever system you want, and side note, free float rails will help with accuracy because it's not touching the barrel, so that's something to think about. But once you pick out the rail system you want, whether or not you want a handguard, Picatinny, whatever it may be, you'll need to attach it to the barrel to the upper receiver. You'll either do that with a standard barrel nut if your rail doesn't have one that's proprietary, or it'll be with the one that comes with the rail system. So I took the barrel nut and affixed the barrel to the upper receiver. Then next I put on the rail system. So you slide the rail system on, screwed it down, and once you get that locked in, you're able to move on to the next step of this process, which is going to be your gas block. Okay, so what I did for mine was I went with this front sight base. And what it is it's your front sight like the military would have, and the gas block is the bottom of the base. So the gas tube stops here, and what that does is as gases are coming out down the barrel, they're redirected through here and back into the gun, which forces back the bolt carrier group and chambers the next round. So I went with this style front sight base. If you wanted a low profile front sight base, you can get, a low profile gas block, you can get one of those, and you can run the rail system further down than the actual gas block. You can do that. There's a 1,000,001 different ways you can do it, and that's what's fun about this project, is you can build it however you want. So what I did is I went with a front sight base with sling mount and all that kind of stuff. So once you have that affixed and you have your gas tube in, the next thing you'll need for the upper receiver is your muzzle device. And there's a few different options out there for muzzle device. Let me see if I can zoom in here for you guys. This muzzle device is by Stag Arms. As well, I skipped something. For you guys, just if you're wondering, the barrel is by Bravo Company. So I got the barrel from Bravo Company, and the gas tube and front sight base. I think I got from Weapon Outfitters. So there you have it. So moving on, the Stag Arms muzzle brake, or I'm sorry, the Stag Arms compensator. Basically, you can get a compensator, you can get a flash hider, depending on what you want. Do you want to minimize as much recoil as you can? Do you want to minimize flash signature? These are things that you'll just decide on your own. A lot of good ones out there for relatively inexpensive price. This one was, I think, 27 bucks. I mean, it was really cheap, but does an excellent job of minimizing recoil. I will be upgrading this to a Wheaton Arms muzzle brake that they use for their 3 guns. Their 3-gun tournament kits and things like that. So that'll be upgraded down the road, but that's not something that's a necessity right now. This is an excellent muzzle brake for the price. So backing up, so you can see we have some Magpul goodies on here. These are some rail covers by Magpul. I think they're called XTMs or something like that. Basically, they're just these plastic pieces that clamp on so that when you're holding your hand around the rifle, you're not holding against these sharp teeth. Some people say they put them on there to protect the teeth of the rail, but if you have a decent rail, I mean, these things are hard as rock. They're not going to get messed up. So anyways, that's what they're for. They come in solid colors. I went with 2 different colors and just mixed them up. So this is more of the flat dark earth, and this is OD green. The angled front grip is also from Magpul and FDE, so that's what I chose for the grip. So once you have the upper receiver with the barrel attached with your rail system, you'll have your gas tube installed, and remember your length of gas tube is determined by what barrel you chose. You have your gas block, and you have your muzzle device at the end. Then you're ready to move on to putting in your bolt carrier group and your charging handle. Alright, so for your bolt carrier group, you can buy this assembled, or you can buy this as different parts and get the bolt carrier and then get the bolt and get all the retaining pins and firing pins and things you need. But for me, I went ahead and purchased a full bolt carrier group only because the ones that I wanted didn't come stripped. But, I mean, you're going to strip it down and put it back together every time you clean the rifle anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's not a permanent fixture, so it's something you'll take in apart all the time anyhow. I went with a bolt carrier group from Daniel Defense. This is the all chrome 5.56 bolt carrier group, and the reason I went with all chrome is just because it makes cleanup a little easier, plus I like the look of it. This is a little grungy right now, not too bad actually, because I went to the range the other day, but one thing I wanted to show you guys about the chrome bolt carrier group, and this isn't the best representation because it's not super busy, but the cleanup on this thing is incredible. I mean, literally, stuff just wipes away. You see that? Now, a little bit of that has to do with the frog lube that I put on there, which I'll be doing a separate review on. But so frog lube is an outstanding product that I'll get into in another video. But just generally speaking, this bolt carrier is extremely well designed. It functions really well, and it's easier to clean, like I said, because I went with the chrome. So that is by Daniel Defense. Another thing to remember, too, when choosing your bolt carrier group is the caliber. I mean, you need to be thinking that the whole time you're working on the rifle. Your lower needed to be the right lower. You needed to have the barrel the one you wanted. You need to have the bolt carrier group the one you wanted. The only thing that is specific to 5.56 or 2.23, however, is the barrel. Bolt carrier groups will say 5.56 or 2.23, and they're the same. So that doesn't really make a difference. Now, the charging handle I went with is also by Bravo Company, just like the barrel. It's the Bravo Company Gunfighter charging handle. They have a few different mods. They're called 3, 4, and 5. And what that determines is the length that this sticks out to the left. So when you go to charge your rifle, how far you want that sticking out. This is the mod 4. Which seems to be the most popular one from what I understand, but I like it. It sticks out far enough to be able to easily actuate it. It doesn't get hung up on gear, clothes, any of that kind of stuff. So, once you have this portion of the gun assembled, there's a couple things that you'll need to do. One thing I forgot to mention with putting on the barrels, it has to be torqued to a certain foot-pounds. When you get to the upper receiver, you need some more tools. You'll need a vise, you'll need an upper receiver vise block, you'll need a torque wrench. and you'll use that torque wrench to measure out the foot-pounds and to help get your barrel nut aligned properly so that your gas tube can fit in. Another thing that you're going to need that torque wrench for is for putting on the muzzle device. Some people, it doesn't really matter. They don't think it matters because you use the features on the muzzle device to line it up. This one is one of those. But anyhow, so you'll need a torque wrench to be able to do that. So what you'll do is you'll assemble your rifle, and you'll have to check the headspace. Now this is something that some people say you need to do, some people say you don't. Checking the headspace is important, especially if you're buying refurbished parts. Okay, so if you get a bolt carrier group from a surplus somewhere, or from a buddy that's used, or you're in that kind of thing, it's a little bit more concerning. In which case, that I would recommend that if you don't want to buy a whole nother set of tools, or the neck ache that it is to actually do it, you take that to a gunsmith and check that for you. I didn't check my headspace. I went with all new parts from reputable companies and just went with it, and sure enough, it shot just fine. So that's a little side note there for you. Alright, so now that we're reassembled up here, I wanted to mention a couple quick things that I forgot. First, I wanted to mention that the upper receiver I went with is by Spikes Tactical. Their stuff has the spider logo on it, you can see right there. Forgot to mention that. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that is completely a preference issue, and you'll read a lot of debate on whether or not it's necessary online, but something you'll need to think about when picking out your upper receiver and your barrel are M4 feed ramps. M4 feed ramps are introduced in the AR-15 to fix a very isolated problem with some AR-15 issues the military was having. It's not something that by any means is necessary, but it is something that seems to be forced on the marketplace. What I mean by that is it's tons of barrels out there now have it as just part of the barrel. It's not even an option, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's supposed to help reliability, which is nice. But the reason I say you need to think about that is if you pick out a barrel that does or does not have M4 feed ramps, it's important to make sure that your upper receiver matches up with that. Meaning, you know, if one does and one doesn't, it can kind of be problematic with the feeding of certain types of rounds, especially hollow points, things of that nature. Mine does. I do have M4 feed ramps etched into the upper receiver, as well as in the barrel itself. So that's another side note. Another thing too is the rear sight I went with is the Magpul MBUS rear sight. This is something that again will be upgraded down the road with something from Troy, probably a little bit nicer. But for getting the build done and wanting to go out and shoot and stuff, this is an excellent sight. It works good enough for sure. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please post comments with some things that you like or don't like about the process or parts, or if you have suggestions on things. I'd love to hear what you guys put on your rifle. I'll throw in some footage of us taking it out for the first time the other day and let you guys check that out. Hope you enjoyed, and leave some comments below. Thanks a lot.
How's the recoil?
Nothing.
Good.
That's all. That's it. Let's check it out, man.
So awesome.